Jesus, are you okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's a normal noise that people make.
Yeah, if you're like in your 70s.
Or if you don't swallow water correctly or seltzer.
Yes, then it is normal. Correct.
Look, if you're going to cough and it's going to be embarrassing, you may as well just play it up. Make it as embarrassing as possible.
Oh, yeah. And do that like,
That's what I do with sneezes. I make sure the whole room, if it's a 1,800 square foot room, everybody will know. Achoo! I worked with someone who did that once. Every sneeze was a fucking show.
Yeah.
What's the point?
I hate that.
Nobody really sneezes like that. I don't know what he was doing.
So it depends. So like whether it's at the end or the beginning. Achoo! Achoo! Like you're literally just screaming. And then there are those women that are like,
that's you.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Your sneezes, you hold your sneezes in and then they come out.
Not all the time. I just started to hold them in because I would be breastfeeding or I'd have a sleeping baby and I'd need to sneeze and I'd be like afraid to startle them.
Oh,
so I started like that. Mine aren't cute like those ones.
Babies. Making parents become people they aren't. This is the trend. I can't even sneeze properly now because there's a baby.
You mean considerate?
No, that's not. Sneezing is holding in a sneeze. Remember when your eye recently was all red? Maybe that's why it got all red. Maybe that's why that blood burst into your eyeball and filled it because you held in a sneeze.
Or maybe I orgasmed so hard, baby.
You should have brought that up on the masturbation episode. That's what people wanted. People wanted your routine. They wanted to hear about the tools that you used.
Yeah. Well, first step is to always make sure you have an extra can of gasoline in the garage.
I feel you make jokes, but I feel as though we really let people down with that episode. They want the raunchiness.
You know what?
There were guys. Sorry for interrupting, but I just want to set this up. There were guys who probably saw that and thought, I can't listen to this around other people in my family. So they made a special setup.
Thanksgiving night, everyone went to bed, and I'm going to download the episode.
They pulled down their pants.
Yeah.
They wrapped their shoulders in a shawl. And
Jack bib.
And then they never got what they wanted. They didn't hear about how you use tools to help.
You know, I bet they could, if they did come to our episode with that in mind, I hope that they were disappointed and then they just couldn't stop listening because it was so good. And then when it was over, they realized that their pants were still down and like, what a silly thing they were about to do. And they left our episode with a deeper understanding and insight.
Why would it be a silly thing to do? The whole show was about how masturbation's okay, and then at the end,
but how silly,
the lesson wasn't for them to look down and see their pants around their ankles and say, "Oh,
not to be ashamed, just to be like, oh, I was gonna jerk it." That's silly. This is so interesting.
To the stories of Autumn and the tools that she uses.
First, I take out a pickle.
I like referring to them as tools because,
yeah.
I mean, toys.
Because they're always toys.
Well, it's the same thing. Like, it's a tool to help you. So it is a tool.
But they have to make it like playful bed. Oh, you're in bed and it's playful. That always freaks me out when people talk about like, oh, kinky sex is just play. It's sex play. It's just like little kids playing. Ew.
You pull out your husky 15-inch wide mouth tool bag. And inside you've got all the things you need for your craft.
Lube. Dilds. Vibes.
Do we see? This is what people wanted. So if they come back and they listen to this week's episode, they're getting a little treat here. Mm-hmm. I'll give them a groan.
Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ. That was some strange cadence you opened up the show with.
I know. I think because I had like a little in my throat, and I was trying to speak through it, and so I was like moving my. Yeah, it was weird. Sorry.
It's funny how something like that is noticeable. It shouldn't matter that you can just present it any way you want, but the fact that it doesn't match the opening of every other episode leading up to this one is going to throw some people off.
Welcome to One Topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ. This is our 100th episode. I don't know if you know that.
Woo!
We've made it.
We've never missed not one.
No, maybe there's sometimes we should have missed an episode. I look back on
But
some
guess
of them.
what?
We did.
We didn't.
Yeah. Consistency, persistence. These are the
Yeah.
keys.
Playing through pain.
Sometimes it's not going to be your best performance, but all that matters is you tried. And then
That's right.
You can put that on your tombstone when you die.
And as long as the good outweigh the bad. And sometimes, when you think, well, I don't want to do it, and then you end up doing it, you get like emotionally raw, content. And that can be okay.
For some people, other people don't like it when we do that. They think sissies.
Yeah. Well, then you're in the wrong place.
This is embarrassing.
You need to go
Opening up
subscribe to
door.
the John Deere podcast or something.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that there are several, sadly, John Deere
Yeah.
podcasts. So anyway, this is the 100th episode, which leads to our topic, numbers. There's a lot of significance placed on 100 for no other reason than it's a nice round number. We could have celebrated 99. We could have waited next week and celebrated 101. But this insistence on, 100, there's no extra meaning to 100.
Yeah, and we really are putting a lot of pressure on it because this episode better be good because it's the 100th.
Well,
Whereas if maybe the pressure should have been on 101 to say like, okay, we've done 100. Now to do more than that has to really ramp up.
Thanks for introducing that. I was not thinking that at all, but now it's in my mind, and it's going to surely affect my performance because I'm going to overthink it. So, appreciate it, Autumn.
You should name that. You should name that I call it your demon. Well, I really call it your daemon, but your demon inside of you that like just fucks with you constantly. You should name it and then just say hi to it. Be like, oh, there's Cliff. Cliff's the asshole that stops me from doing my best.
Yeah, mine is named Greg. That's the problem.
Oh, but it's GHREGGE.
Why would it be that you could have just said it's GREGG and that was enough hate? That would have been plenty of hate. But then
I wanted you to really hate it.
you gave it some other name.
Greg.
Grogu. That's the name
Greg.
that's the name of the baby Yoda, I think, that everyone can't stand now. The baby Yoda on Mandalorian got a name. Did you know that?
No. Wait a minute. First of all, I want to talk about the name, but then you're saying people can't stand anymore? Everybody loves that little baby.
They don't like the
Yoda.
name. They say the name's ruined the baby Yoda
Greg.
because its name is Grogu.
Grogu.
And this has become a
They
thing.
they just are like, it sounds like a baby, like goo goo.
There's outrage. There is outrage on the internet over Grogu. Who cares?
Did Grogu say its name?
No, a Jedi spoke to it through its mind.
Oh, that's cool. I want to. I think I need to watch that show.
Hey, you tried watching something, you got bored.
I did, but maybe because of the Grogu, maybe it would really keep my interest more because it's so cute. Grogu's so cute.
I don't know which episode that is. They're going by chapter. Each episode is a I don't know if it was chapter 14 or 15, but that in itself is using numbers. Numbers dominate. They dominate everything in our lives. It is
They
everywhere.
do, and you really don't think about them, and then you start looking into them, and then it really blows your mind.
Well,
It blew my mind.
I think about them constantly. I quantify time. I quantify the passage of time. This is a favorite pastime of mine. For example, if I'm bored and I have to go somewhere, I count steps. That's a way for me to pass the time and also have a way of understanding what that time represents. Or when I was a kid on the school bus riding home from school, I would take out a sheet of paper and just write numbers. And I knew that once I got to a certain number, I can't remember what it is now, but let's say 1,532, I was close to being home.
Wow.
And it's a sickness. That's why I played
Yeah.
Pogo.com dominoes. At some point, I'm passing the time. I'm wasting time playing online dominoes. There's better things I could be doing in my life. But instead, I know that I'm wasting my time and wasting my life. And then I like to see those numbers presented to me. This is exactly how much time you've wasted. Again, it's not the amount of time, but it's just the number of games. And it's over 16,000 games of online dominoes.
Over how many years?
I haven't played in years, but this was probably 2008 to 2015.
Oh.
So 7 years with a 53% win rate. So thank you very much.
You said 16,000 and then over 7 years?
Yeah, but I can't tell you how much time one game.
Well, that's like 2,300 thereabout. 2285. So 2285 a year. So divided by months, that's 190 games a month.
And several games a day.
Yeah. So okay.
You want to do some quick math? I don't know what a game lasted. Let's just say for easy number, 16,000 multiplied by maybe a game lasted 6 minutes. That's 96,000 minutes divided by 60. So that's 1,600 hours. I mean, whatever. Is that a lot? It sounds like a lot.
It does sound like a lot. But guess what? You're able to calculate such large numbers and therefore be able to think in this really expansive way because of the number 0.
Well, you're just jumping straight into things.
Oh, you mean the show?
Well, you just want to go straight to the argument of whether or not 0 is a number or not.
0 is what has made it possible for numbers to be so relatable. Before, it was only like scholars and people that were able to to understand how to do math. But because of the introduction of the numeral 0, the concept has always been around, but it was dealt with in this different way. And to have a number like 100 had to be like its own special design instead of it just being 2 zeros added to the 1. And then you can put zeros all the way on one side and all the way the other side. And then you can talk about the infinitesimal size of something by putting all those zeros in front, making it tinier and tinier. And so that opened up people's minds to something bigger or smaller than themselves, which is fascinating.
Well, in general, and you're saying what 0 is a concept. Mathematics, which is not what the show is about, but number is the basis of mathematics. Mathematics in itself is a concept, which it's an abstract concept, which we can get to. I still would like to set up how numbers dominate our lives on any given day, even outside of people like myself who use them to really just take note of how much time is passing, allowing myself to freak out about
gain some control over
impending
this thing that's happening to you.
Doom and death. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, I know
if
it's
I count
coming.
it, then I can control it.
But that's the thing. You can't control it. And then you wake up in the middle of the night and you're in a panic. And then you just say 17 no's to yourself. And that's what it takes to put that panic back into the box. No, 17 times. But in general, it's like people obsess over numbers quite often. It qualifies value or a job well done. And the fact that we talked about this show 100 in a row, to us, wow, you did a good job. The more money you have in the bank for most people, wow, you did a good job. The more home runs some chump hits on a baseball team who makes way too much of that aforementioned money for playing a game, which is a whole other thing, because then the owners actually do make a lot of money. And within the economy of baseball, the players should be paid. That's my argument. But in general, it's a ridiculous thing. The whole thing is asinine. But within that world, the owner shouldn't be taking all the money. The players do deserve the money. But the more home runs you hit. You have
Wow,
you have
what a-
pathetic
What
dudes.
a weird little hole we were living in for a
You
second.
have pathetic dudes who value their existence by the number of notches they get.
on their bedposts.
Yeah, real cool. Yeah, look at me. I've really achieved at life because I've got all these notches.
I've ruined my bedpost.
But numbers, yeah. So, moving into what you're talking about, just the basics of mathematics, it is a language that is universal, which is this interesting concept that I don't know enough about to feel confident speaking to it in depth, because I know that there are people who actually have studied math in their
Maths.
in their lives. But it is an interesting thing to me that despite all the different verbal languages we have, mathematics does seem to be understood by everyone, and it also does seem to be a way into explaining existence, the universe, the way things work. And, there's an idea that if there's other intelligent life out there, it would be exactly the same for them. Their systems may be different. Their method of counting and numbers may be different, but it doesn't matter because it's not the system that matters. It's math is an expression of quantification and basic logical concepts. I think it's the thing is the logic. It is the most logical thing that you can fall into. So if you start playing around in it, the way it progresses, it's going to take everyone down the same path. And just that depth, which is not that deep on the topic, it blows my mind. It's like, is this written into the code of the universe? Maybe it is all a simulation of sorts.
Yeah.
And this is us starting to understand the way the simulation runs. There are no ways to alter it because it needs to be a certain way in order for it to run the way it does run. So it opens itself up for that kind of exploration. And I do think that, math is maybe the most, I'm going to say it's like the best thing that people have maybe invented. It's just an insane thing to come across and to start to play around in.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think it was just out of necessity, right? Because people were like trading things.
Well, it starts simple, yes.
Yeah.
Just very simple ways to explain.
I have 3 of these.
It's quantification. Like it's just where the fact that there is a real need to quantify on all levels is.
As our lives got more sophisticated, our maths needed to get more sophisticated with like figuring things out that were a circle, and how to wrap, how long to cut something, that's not a sphere, but we needed to know how to cover that thing. And so in order to not waste the amount of material that we had, you know what I mean? So once we got more sophisticated, then our sort of concepts got more sophisticated. And like I said before, it was real simplified stuff for people to do before people started. And it was all over the place. Like people were doing things in all different types of ways, representing math. Like I think Romans were the big ones with their Roman numerals and things. And then I think it was in India that they started to use the 0. And then that changed everything. I know I keep talking about 0 because I'm obsessed with it.
You love the 0. You did some research before the show and stumbled across.
Well, I mean, I also looked at other number things, I'm how the Mayans represented numbers.
I'm not trying to dismiss your love of 0. It's just funny how you've really taken to it. In general, it surprises me. You can have your time. I promise. I'll give you the time to wax poetic about 0. It just surprises me that quite often people aren't that interested in this, growing up when with math and like, this is dumb. When will I ever use this? And sure, do you use the higher concepts that come into play that often? No, not as much.
Pythagorean theorem.
But the fact there's this dismissal is like, I can't be bothered with such a thing. There's a standard that's been set forth by so many people that when it comes to this, it's more interesting to not know. Only nerds.
I think that people have a similar view on vegetables, where it's like, oh, I've grown up with the concept that this is bad. And so now it's like, Brussels sprouts, you know, and it's like, well, try it. This has bacon and like syrup or whatever on it. You're like, oh, it's really good. It's the same thing with math. You're put through school. You're forced. Everyone's has this like forced standard of how much mathematics you need to progress. And if it's more difficult for you, then you're still held to the same standard as other people. And then you just like hate it. And you're like, it's dumb. Well, I don't understand it. And it's hard. And I'm forced. So it's dumb. And so I never want to think about it again. It's like, I just can't. Like, math's stupid.
Did you fall into that
like,
camp?
Oh, it's interesting.
Was that you? Did you not like math?
No, I actually loved math. Well, yeah, I love math. I think it's interesting. It really made like, and I loved my physics class, even though I didn't do well. And I'm not great at like concepts of math. That's where I feel like maybe a mix of the Common Core would help me, because I can't instinctively give you an answer of like 8 plus 7. I have to think of 8 and then think of 7. I have to like count it
On your fingers?
You know what I mean? Like, whereas other people might say like, oh, okay, I know, 8 is more than 5, 3 more than 5, and 7's 2 more than 5. And I know that 5 and 5 are 10. And so I'm going to add and then I know if there's like, you're able to, I don't know, people have these concepts in their brain about how to do things. And I missed that. But I always enjoyed math a lot. I felt like it was a puzzle. I loved having like a library of formulas in my head to know like which formula makes sense for this issue, and I always thought that was really cool. But I wasn't great at it, but I enjoyed it.
I think if people actually got a little deeper into it and understood the concepts more than just this is something I need to memorize. So I'll remember this for the time being. I don't even understand why it works this way or how it works this way or the purpose it serves in working this way.
That's two things. That's the teachers being held under a standard of like everyone in your class has to be able to master, quote unquote, this concept. So it's like the teachers then have to be like, yo, memorize this bullshit so that I can say that you passed it, or else, I'm not doing my job properly, instead of like actually getting people to understand it,
I think there's a way into it to maybe interest people a bit more. And, it is, again, when it's boiled down, all based on numbers, and they come into play. Again, it's just everything needs to be quantified, and people like quantifying things. The number of friends you have online, the number of likes you got.
That's your brain. Your brain likes to.
I know, but I'm saying that's maybe a way in.
Yeah.
That's a way in. You reach out to these little hellions, these dumb, vapid fools who are going through the school system, and you play on their level, at least at first, and talk about how many hearts are you getting on the Instagram.
Yeah. You have loaded 78 TikToks in the past 5 months. How many TikToks on average are you posting each month?
How much of your life are you wasting on something that really doesn't matter ultimately?
Sure. That's your test. You know what I mean? Like, you make up your own curriculum. You can add that to your test. I think that a lot of the students in your class would think that was hilarious.
What?
They would love Mr. Russ. Oh my God. Have you seen Mr. Russ's tests? They're hilarious.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I wouldn't actually relate to them by trying to be cool. I'd be backhanded. I'd be making fun of them. And
that's
the
what I'm
lives that
saying.
They live.
Like Becky with the short hair.
But they're
Kayla R. posted this last week. She sits next to Dylan.
It is something that people think about constantly, though. Again, now I think about the most important thing in a lot of people's lives is the number of friends and likes they have online, the number of followers, the number of people they can reach with.
How old is your baby? However many weeks old, however many months old. It's all, we're quantifying everything.
Well, with numbers comes power, sadly. Usually the higher you get, the more power you have. It can apply to age, like you brought up. If people still, even though things have shifted and youth is what everyone strives for, and they destroy their faces and bodies to try to look youthful. But there was a time when he's 70 years old. She's 70 years old. They're wise. They're wiser because they've lived this long. And maybe there was something more to be said. You got to this point and you weren't killed and you didn't die.
Yeah, there was more for people to overcome. Whereas now it's like modern medicine and TV and just kind of sitting around. You've made it to yeah, remember that's what we were saying about birthdays. Birthdays used to be celebrations of like, holy shit, you're 25, you're still alive. The average age, I think in the Middle Ages, no, before the Dark Ages was like 25. And then in the Dark Ages things got weird and people lived longer, but because now, like nothing was happening. But still, to say like you lived to 18, that was like, we have to celebrate. You're still alive. You didn't die of some weird flu, of a fever. You know, people used to die of fevers.
Which is a number in itself. A fever.
That's right.
Here's the set number you should be at. And if you're above this, there's one where power doesn't come into play. The higher the number there.
My temperature is the hottest temperature. I've got the hottest body temperature alive.
Now now birthdays especially, it's just a quantification of the time passing, which again, I established that I like for whatever reason, but birthdays are the ones I don't because it's just a ticking clock. It's like, all right, getting closer. You don't know for sure. Would it be better to know the age you would die? So it's like, at 87 it's happening. And then it really is a countdown because now it's an arbitrary countdown. Like, somewhere around here probably, but I don't exactly know when.
That's a really good question if you were on like a dating site to sort of gauge somebody and their mindset. To say like, are you an optimist? And you would feel like, no, I don't know which one would be the optimist, but whatever is the one where like maybe you would live the most as you can until the date of your death that ahead of time, or if it would just sort of paralyze you in fear or something.
It would paralyze me. I think that's known.
Not the optimist.
Also, you're giving way too much credit to what people want to deal
Swipe
with
left
on dating sites. It's like they don't want to think about anything too deep.
I know. What did you ask somebody about, like a pen or something?
No, there was some. I forget. Somebody said once that they like pens, and then I created little setups of like a pen. I made a little bed, and the pen was sleeping in the bed, or the pen was doing. I got no response. Just too much.
Man.
They don't.
So I would see your response of saying like you would be paralyzed with fear, and I'd be like, I don't know. But then if you sent me pictures of a pet in a bed,
people don't like it. You're
all in love.
You're rare. You're rare. People will present themselves as being open to, things that aren't shallow. Maybe a little more revered. It's like, I want someone to connect with, and then they're just looking at the pictures. That's all they're doing ultimately. Yeah. So it's nice to think that maybe people online, because I feel as though I put something about, actually one of the things I put on a dating profile is that I like to quantify the passage of time and then panic about the passage of the said time.
See, I would think of that as sad. And then once you sent me the pictures of the pens taking a nap or something, then I was like, oh, it means he's interesting.
Well, here we are. Wait, I've got another birthday coming up, and I prefer not to think about it. And then that birthday, though, is really going to be no different than the next birthday, which will be 40. So the 39th is coming up, and then the 40 in my mind is going to represent so much more. And then
you know what you could do?
Suicide?
That would stop that, I guess. That would stop your quantification of time. You should just stop celebrating a birthday and go to a hypnotist or something and get them to erase your memory of your age.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like a brilliant plan. You can't escape it. No matter if the hypnotist actually worked, then sure. But that's a fake thing. It's never going to happen. You can stop celebrating the birthday, but the day still comes. You can't escape the dates because it's all thrown in our face constantly. Months, days,
just be like,
years.
I don't know how old I am anymore. Just stop remembering. Just stop thinking about the number.
Numbers on a clock. It's all there. You can't get away from it. So while in theory this is a nice idea, there's zero way that it would actually work in practice.
Well, it wouldn't stop you from noticing time passing, but you may have...
All right, Zoloft. I'll just...
Yes, get on the choo-choo train of just making life a little easier.
We'll see the way that goes. But
Choo choo.
all right, we can move into. I know that you want to talk.
How many pills do I take a day?
Oh,
I take 2 pills a day.
Trust me, when I was taking pills, I always knew how many were left, and that was always a source of panic. It's like, I don't know, I'm getting low on these things.
You know,
It's
weirdly,
Let's not talk about that.
Okay, I wonder too. So I just watched this thing where people used to not have exact measurements of temperature on their ovens, and so like in the Victorian era, a recipe would say like in a moderate oven, and people used to do little things to like test the heat by like putting their hand in or like sprinkling flour on the bottom, and like if it doesn't catch fire, if it just browns, then it's good or something. Anyway, our connection with numbers gets more sort of either sophisticated, but maybe more complicated by saying like it needs to be 375 degrees. It can't be 350, you know, and it's how long does it have to be in there? It says 12 to 16 minutes.
Well, over time,
instead of just in the past, it was like, I don't listen. Bitches didn't have a timer. You're just like, is it done? I listen to it to hear if it's bubbling or not, like Great British Bake Show, or, you know, there are these other methods. And so maybe before we weren't thinking about numbers the same way as we do now.
They've surely come into our mindset and our consciousness a lot more, because as technology advances, it's become more accurate in quantifying things. I know you don't follow baseball, but the stats in baseball, the way since computers and sabermetrics is a thing, and the game itself and the room for human error or a human understanding of different situations, it's all been taken out because it's all so fucking precise at this point. We've got stats on this person. So
you've taken away some of the soul.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that could apply across the board, not just baseball, but when everything is so precise, I do think you lose something. And for example, in baseball, it's just the fact that every tendency of every player when they're up to bat, and they're up to bat in the specific situation, and what do they usually do here? It's all laid out, and then so you can play to those numbers and you get weird things. Again, I feel weird talking to you about it because I know you don't care.
I mean, I do know what baseball is.
Yeah, but so the positions in baseball in the infield, you have first, second, shortstop, third base, and then you have a batter up, and you know that he always pulls maybe 1% of the time he doesn't pull the ball. So you shift every player over to one side of the field.
But okay.
When you're swinging the bat, if you're a right-handed batter, when you're pulling the baseball, it means that you're swinging. If you swung and timed it so you hit the ball exactly as it's crossing the plate, the ball will go straight.
Oh.
If you're swinging,
like it pulls in one direction or another.
Yeah. So if you swing a little late, you're gonna push it away from you, and pulling is the same direction you bat. So if you're right-handed, you would pull it. But anyway, I feel as though
So instead of having a pitcher or a team that instinctively reacts to what a batter may be doing, it's they're studying the other team and their players and what they are doing statistically.
I don't think it's healthy overall. People do this with stocks now. The fact that you've got like minute-to-minute computers that are trading stocks and watching the smallest changes in the stock market, and it's based on all this data that you've collected over the years and understanding the way things work in certain situations. You know how I feel about the stock market to begin with.
Don't go back into that hole.
Well, no, I mean, just quickly, having a new company who needs some, backers and some money. You're a small business or a bigger, fine, great. This is a way to do it. A nice system for you to raise some capital. Hopefully the people who believed in you can pay them back. But you get to the point where it's just giant corporations making profits of $20 billion a year, but then one year they only make $19.5 billion, and that's a failure for some reason because you're not showing constant growth, and it's the most ridiculous system. And I think that this also plays into that deterioration of what the market should have been or was meant to be. It's because people get so precise with it It's all over analyzed. And then the people who on the other end who are subject to the overanalyzation have to adjust their behavior. And then the stress comes onto them and everything is scrutinized more than it's ever been in the past. And me quantifying time, the passage of time, not a healthy thing. I think overall, all this quantification, not a healthy thing for a lot of people. The fact that people don't have enough followers online and it makes them feel bad. Maybe we should blow up numbers. Maybe that's what the point of this show is. We should somehow rid ourselves of numbers. What a world where you didn't have to count things constantly. Wouldn't that be a nice existence? A world of zero?
Hey, I love zero.
I know. I wanted you to also talk about your love for zero. But
I don't have the same affliction, I would say, when it comes to quantification. I feel like I have a healthy respect for what numbers can provide. I don't feel like it's oppressing me with the like you said, quantification of time and what something has worth because of whatever number it is. Like I just don't.
There's a
I just
threshold.
don't react that same way.
There's a threshold. Like just the fact that success in your personal life means 2 cars and 2.6 kids and 1.5 dogs. And
I don't think about that. I mean, I have thought of those things. Those things are present, but they don't influence me and make me feel bad or good based on, like, I mean, listen, if I posted something and it got like, 17 million views and went viral or something, I think I would be like excited by that, but I wouldn't think, but I mean, honestly, at the end of it, it's nothing. You know what I mean? Unless you start, like that guy that drank the cranberry juice and sang that Fleetwood Mac song, like he did that one post and now he's like a millionaire or something. I don't know how that works, but no matter what, if I posted something and it got a lot of recognition, I wouldn't think that I then have more value because of that.
you're right.
I would just think like, what a cool thing that happened.
I'd like
and
to.
like what I was talking about with baking, like I do put things in the oven at a specific temperature, but I don't pay attention to how long things are supposed to go on. I smell it, and that's how I determine whether things are done. And like put a toothpick and stuff and check it's whatever. But
Especially when you're doing it for yourself. Why not? I think that's a better way to do it. You're relying on your knowledge that you've picked up along the way of gauging this. And is there a way to do it perfectly? Sure. But to me, it seems, what's the point of baking for yourself if there's not some joy in it? And if you're obsessing over doing
I have to knead this bread for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, set a timer. Like, no.
Yeah, so I would
just
like
get to know what things feel like when they're done.
I would like to apologize to numbers. And I know previously I said we should maybe rid ourselves of it. It's the people.
Yeah.
It's the people and what they do with numbers. That's where the problem lives. There's such importance assigned to all these things. Numbers can just exist. Numbers help us understand the universe.
Yeah.
Which again, it is if you take higher levels of math, calculus, algebra, all of it, and you can actually start to understand the way the universe works, or you can see where you don't understand things because there are gaps there. Like, I don't understand this yet. I don't know how this fits into this, but once we do figure that, we'll know because it's the only way that this equation will work. Again, it's a logical progression. There's only one way things can work. Otherwise, it falls apart. And that in itself, I do think is a cool thing. And I also think that that's maybe why, if it's a language of the universe, it's why people also then move into things like numerology and apply significance and mysticism when it doesn't belong. It's like, well, numbers obviously are present in our universe, so therefore I'll take the number. Here's what we'll do. So my name is Greg, and we'll take Greg. What's G? What letter of the alphabet is G? 7?
7.
7, and then R, whatever that is. We don't have to figure it out. Then E, and then we'll add it, and we'll get a number, and then your number will be that, and then you can, if you like someone, you can do the same thing, and then we can compare those two numbers, and then the meanings of those numbers is something we made up. It's actually not anything real. It's just some things some people sat and they said, oh, 5 means this, and an 8 means this, and I'll tell you right now, the 5 and the 8 aren't really going to be too compatible, because the 5 really is a person who loves autonomy, and the 8 is a person who wants to settle down and meld with it, but so it's not going to work because your names. What the fuck did you just do? This is
it's all over the place. It's about like dates to do things. We shouldn't do things on this date because if you add these two numbers together and then subtract it by the year, then you get a weird number, and that number's not lucky for me because my life sign is a 6, and so like it's
even the number 13, wherever.
Right.
Where did I know that there's a story behind why 13s become unlucky? And it's just something I've never even looked into. Surprisingly, because a lot of times I want to know why people are idiots and where it came from. But yeah, the number 13. Everyone said why. Most people probably don't even know why. None
of us know why.
I've just made a valid point.
Lucky number 7.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why 13, but most people have jumped on board. No, that's not good. Why is it not good? Why don't you tell me? Yeah, and 7, like you said, lucky number 7. These things are born out of something.
Ooh, mathematicians and scientists, meanwhile, point to the preeminence of the number 12, often considered a perfect number in the ancient world. So 12.
All right, let's assign that to 12 now. It's a perfect.
An early myth surrounding the origin of the fear involved one of the world's oldest legal documents, the Code of Hammer. I know this word, and I'm afraid I'm going to say it wrong. Hammurabi, which reportedly omitted a 13th law from its list of legal rules. In reality, the omission was no more than a clerical error made by one of the document's earliest translators who failed to include the line of text. In fact, the code doesn't numerically list its laws at all. Okay.
There you go. And this has become a thing. People have attached significance to it, and they don't even
Ancient
question.
Egyptians considered the number lucky. 13 was lucky, while others have simply swapped numbers as the base of their phobias. 4 is avoided in much of Asia. 80% of high-rise buildings in the United States do not have a 13th floor, and the vast majority of hotels, hospitals, and airports avoid using the number for rooms and gates as well. But in much of East and Southeast Asia, where tetraphobia is the norm, which I think is the fear of numbers, you'd be hard-pressed to find much use of the number 4 in private or public life, thanks to similar sounds for Chinese language and Chinese-influenced linguistic subgroups, words for 4 and death. Okay, that's interesting.
There it is. Look, this stuff is interesting to look into and to understand where it came from, but it's all made up.
Yeah. The human brain wants patterns. You know what I mean? So we're going to not notice all the shitty things that happen every other Friday, and then Friday the 13th we're like, oh, that's why that happened, because it's that day,
but only on a Friday.
Yeah.
The 13th happens every week. We should just drop 13 from our months. Let's not even have 13.
And then would that make our leap years every other year if we did that?
Well, how many days? So at that point you'd lose 12 days a year.
12 days a year. Okay. There's
test your math skills.
All right, hold on. So we'd lose 12 days a year. There's 52 times.
Every 4 years you have to add an additional day.
Minus 12. So 352 days in a month. I mean, in a year.
Here, 12 divided by 0.25, 48. Is that right? See, now you've got us. What are we doing? What is this? Every 4 years, you have to add an additional day. So that means each year we're short by a quarter of a day. So if each year you lost 12 days, you'd be adding many. It's just stupid. You would just add.
No. We're dumb. Look, all you'd have to do is add a day
to
every calendar. every month.
That's what I was just
So
about to
November
say.
would have 31 days
Yeah,
and December
we
would
just-
have 32.
We just spent way too much time, and the numbers have made us look dumb.
Listen, people were on this journey with us.
No, people were screaming from the get-go.
Oh, good.
You morons, is what they were saying. You absolute idiots. But I can tell you what numerology has to say about the year 2021 if you care to
Okay.
know.
Well, first, before I want to tell you your numerology, your personal numerology.
Okay.
Your life path is 6.
I don't even like 6. I like odd numbers.
Oh, no.
Well, let me tell you
You're a
this.
6.
Let's
Six,
do
let me
this.
tell-
Sorry, let's do this quickly. Number 1, I don't like. 2, I like. That's an even number, but I like 2. It's not really. I guess maybe it is tied in my birthday. 2, 82, whatever. I like 2. 3, I like. 4, I hate. 5, I like. 6, I hate. 7, I don't really care about. 8, I like. That's an even number. 9 can go to hell. So,
Arbitrary. Just random feelings about numbers.
yeah, so it's actually not even just. I prefer odd numbers for whatever reason.
Uh-huh.
I like that can't be cleanly divided.
Well, I don't know if I totally agree with this.
Anyway, 6.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with this description of your life path number that you were assigned. Responsible, caring, self-sacrificing, protective, helpful, compassionate, obliging, and then
All of those.
slavish.
All of those.
Yeah.
Run through those again.
Responsible, caring. Are you checking these? Check. Self-sacrificing, protective, helpful, compassionate, obliging, and slavish.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just.
Obliging and slavish. I don't know. And compassionate.
I'm
Sometimes.
highly compassionate.
You're highly compassionate to people you know and care about. but
And
to
on an individual
strangers
level,
on the street that you hiss at, I don't know if you're that compassionate.
I'm not compassionate to people who don't hold it for anyone else. The moment you're not thinking about your
What about a
existence,
What about a child?
a child should be. The child suffers the consequences of the parent who neglects the child and allows the child to run around in a zigzagged pattern and get in the way, and then say, "Oh, it's so cute." No, your child is not
so
cute.
compassionate.
Well, that's the child. One of the first things you should teach a child is you're not the only fucking creature in existence. That should be the very first lesson that any child is taught. You're not the only creature in existence. Now learn this, and then we'll move
right,
on from there. That is the foundation of your existence. But people don't do it. Let the child be. No.
Your personality number is a 5. You probably like to have a lot of freedom and variety in your life, and you often change up how you show yourself to others.
That's why I have so many pairs of glasses. Anyway, what's yours? Let's not talk about this one anymore. You put me in a spot where you claim that I'm not compassionate, where I'm highly compassionate. And I think about the plight of people and how people are suffering. And it's the other people who don't deserve the compassion just because the 86% of people out there are junk.
All right, I'm a 9. My life path number is a 9. Idealistic, political,
No,
aloof.
no.
None of these. Confident,
You're aloof.
sophisticated.
You are aloof.
I am?
Yeah, we talked about this before. Your whole, for a long time, your existence was just, I don't think about these other things.
Oh,
My
yeah.
life's fine.
And now I'm existing in a way that can be aloof. And I am okay with that. Romantic, open-minded, generous, arrogant.
You agree?
A little.
You shouldn't.
It calls me, I'm 9, which means I'm the humanitarian. Your intuition, worldliness, and compassion are your greatest strengths. You are deeply generous, empathetic, and wise beyond your years. You'd make a great social worker, travel agent, or coach. Romantic matches are 2s and 6s.
If you want to make no money, because as we've already established, the more money you have, the more successful you are. Social worker, travel agent.
My
All of this is made up.
personality number
It's-
is a 6. You are very likely, or you are likely a very responsible person by nature, but that doesn't mean you don't like to have fun or enjoy your life.
It's all made up.
We could make up all this bullshit. Your
That-
birthday
that's what
number is
somebody
1. You are
did.
ambitious and motivated no matter what the career you pursue. You excel in situations where a fast, decisive action is needed.
This is you?
Yeah. It really could just say like, it's always the same stuff. You know, it's like, you like to be on time, but sometimes you give yourself the space to be late.
It's like,
You take care of your body, but you also like a night with ice cream, like Ben and Jerry's and friends.
it's the same thing as pot. Now that pot's become legal many places, and
Right.
when people try to sell it, they talk about all the things that it helps. It's like fatigue, helps with your appetite, helps ADHD, helps anxiety, and all the different strains, they list exactly the same thing. Also, all the things that they say that it could cure or help with would make it a wonder drug. And I know some people
Yeah.
view it that way, but it doesn't not solve all these
This
problems.
is good for people who wear glasses.
But this is the
Whereas
same.
this one's good for people who have contacts.
This is the same thing. These people, they put
Do
these
you
profiles
floss?
together.
This
they put
one's
the
perfect
They
for
put
you,
the
bro.
profiles together, and then they just throw a bunch of characteristics out there, and then it's some, yeah, sure, and then some are no, that's not it. But these other ones are there, so therefore they're kind of on the right path. 2021 numerology year 5. This is what, because the 2021, add those together, you get 5.
I
We
get it.
often feel freer during numerology year 5. We often feel freer and more able to make the changes that we have been thinking about for a long time. We will pursue new initiatives and could even feel like we're growing wings. Curiosity and desire for freedom will be present, as will the desire to go beyond our limits. Okay. I don't know if this was written after COVID or if it's just a nice coincidence, but a lot of people will read that like, yes, because this last year, 2020, we were so
Yeah.
restricted. Wow. And they're going to buy into this junk. And then it's going to be more numerologists at the county fair next year. When things do open back up, they'll be sitting there at their table, and people will go listen to this person who decided on a whim that they're a numerologist now.
Ooh, da lolly,
Not that
ooh, da
not
lolly.
not that there should even be training, because there is zero training to be had because it's a fake thing. But the fact that the person just says that they're this now, and they present themselves in a booth,
Yeah.
and they collect people's, and people will
It's the
buy
people with
into
the
it.
tarot cards. It's the same group. Oh, you got the 7 of Cups. That's good.
Do these people deserve compassion on them? These people who rip other people off, who take their money to add to that number?
You know, as the humanitarian, I think that I just want to reach out to those people and just take them under my wing.
Shake them to death. What the hell are you doing? That's what I'd like to do.
How many times would you do it?
That's different for different people.
Okay. Count them
I could write a book, the number of shakes
for
to,
each.
to kill.
Yeah. Depending on your profession. And you could come up with all kinds of numerology just to like based on how annoyed you are by them.
That's actually
Zigzag child walker.
This is another thing that you bring up, an interesting point. People work on scales. Where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 with your annoyance
Yeah.
humanity? I'm at a 10. And the rating system for restaurants
Sure.
and movies.
Oh, it's this place got 4.5 stars. Oh, that's good, right? No, it's out of 10. It's like it changes everything. If you think 4.5 stars, you're like, oh, that's good. You think it's 5. No, it's out of 10. Oh, it changes everything.
It's a 5-star restaurant. Oh, well, out of 89.
Oh, numbers mean something. Thank you, numbers.
Well, I'm sorry that I haven't given you the time that you would like to focus on 0, so you can help wrap us up by the non-number 0, the number that isn't really a number. So
I would argue that infinity is more of a concept than 0, because 0 is the absence of something, where infinity is the ever-present appearance of something. The absence of nothing versus like the forever of something.
okay.
But yeah, once you look into, listen, you can do just a tiny bit of research. Just just put in like YouTube about the concept of 0, and it's so interesting.
What'd you learn? I want to hear some of your findings.
Well, the way that people, like I said in the beginning, the way that people dealt with the having like 100 of something or having 20 of something, how they had to deal with that. It used to just be if it was recorded in any way, it was just like a dot, because it was representing nothing. But then eventually it turned into the circle that we know because people were using like stones on the ground to sort of communicate with each other about, how much of something they were doing. And when they lifted up the stone to take it away, to make it 0, it left like a circle in the ground. And so they started using that as a way to represent nothing. And then once like people in India were like the scientists in India were more focused on really interesting sort of philosophical ways to use math and the number 0, the new number 0, where like the way it was traveling across Europe and things, like people in like the Romans were using it to like count dead bodies and stuff, but like the Indians were like creating communicating with each other how much space you need to plant flowers for this goddess and stuff. It was really interesting. But they were also doing things like calculating the circumference of the earth because they were understanding more about the universe and our place in it, not with telescope, but just like understanding like the curvature of the earth and understanding how much that is because of the number 0. All of these things were happening. All of these like big concept ideas were happening like way before the sort of like the fathers of astronomy. I just think that's really interesting. And I didn't know that until I looked up the history of 0.
I don't have much to say on 0. I haven't spent much time thinking about 0. I do just remember people saying...
Saved by 0.
I remember people saying, what's your favorite number? And then there'll always be someone who says 0. And then someone, that's not a number, which it's not. It's a representation of nothing. And it's interesting.
Which is a number. It's a numeral.
No, 0 is nothing is not a number. If we're talking about numbers being system of quantification, then 0 is not part of that because there's nothing to quantify at that point. But it is interesting that it opens the door to many other things because then you need the contrast. What does 1 mean if nothing isn't a thing, then it doesn't mean anything.
Well, it can be, the space in between -1 and 1, and then it's more of a concept. But if you're talking about it being included in something that's 0.00000001, then it is. Those are numbers. It's a number.
Yeah, it's compared though to 1. How close to 1 are you? 0, 0.
You're 0.000.
I hear I know what you're saying. I'm not trying to argue this. It's just not something I know much about, so I can't speak to it too deeply. But I mean, the fact that 0 was a thing when I don't have any, nothing.
Yeah.
None.
How do I represent that?
None.
And
yeah.
then to say 100 or 200 or 2000 without 0, we would have to have a special numeral for that.
Introducing
instead of it just adding a 0 to a thing to make it 10, 10,000, 10 million, whatever.
1 zillion, which is not even a number that people like to throw out there. It means a lot.
It's just trillion, right? Trillion's the highest.
In terms
because then
of,
you get like 100 trillion.
Yeah, then you start to get into these other things. Trillion may be the highest.
I think so.
Quadrillion. What's a quadrillion? That's one.
Quad. That's 4 drillions. That's 4 drillions.
Trillion, number of zeros.
Is it trillion? Quadrillion? And we've just changed it?
Trillion is 12 zeros. Quadrillion zeros.
I bet you it's
15.
trillion.
The next named number after trillion is quadrillion, which is the one with 15 zeros after it. One comes after.
I would bet, just based on my linguistic knowledge, that it used to be what? That it used to be quadrillion.
What idiots?
But
no, I wouldn't go down that path. I would just stay away from it.
Okay, what happened? It's
Because,
not real.
well, just in general, talking about trillion being the biggest. No, trillion's only 3 on the list. It's million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion.
But that's all trillion. That's all trillion.
No, it's not. There's no trillion there. It's illion.
They're saying quad, sept.
No, they're not. Million.
Septrillion.
Million ends with in, eon, billion, trillion, quadrillion. And they're all, no.
What's after quad?
After quad is quintillion, which is 5, and then sext, it goes into the And then you get all the way up to Googleplex, which is referenced in Back to the Future 3.
But
I know.
Okay.
I'm just don't argue this.
All right.
You're done. Skewer's number is 1 times 10 to 130 power. Skewer's number. I'm looking at this chart. You should here. I'll
Bill Skewers.
I'll send you this chart and this chat right now, and you can look at it. I was just trying to protect you.
We're gonna post it on our Facebook.
I was just trying to protect. I wasn't trying to shut you down, but it's like
I know that
you're going down a path. It's like we're both wrong.
Wow.
So there you go. Novemdecillion, octodecillion, Googleplex, Skewer's number.
All right, I'm gonna look into. Oh wow, Skewer's number.
And on
what
that,
a weird duo trigantillion.
And on that note,
wow, that's amazing. All right, we're gonna post this chart, and I'm also gonna post a video about the concept of zero because it's really interesting. Thank you for listening to. How many minutes have we been talking?
I don't know.
Look at the thing and tell me.
But it's gonna. We got to add music.
Don't ruin my thing. Tell me.
We have to add music at this point.
Oh my God! Just
and it's
tell
going
me
to
the
add.
number that's happening.
So no, at this point in recording, we're at 1 hour and 1 minute and 5 seconds.
All right. Thank you for listening to 61 minutes of one topic. We hoped you liked it. I hope you go and give us 5 stars. And
because my worth is based on the number of stars you give us
and ratings. Greg likes to see the number of ratings increase because that justifies what we're doing and signifies our worth to you. So please do that. Go purchase with money that you can count from our sponsor, hoffandpepper.com. You can get 15% off of one or many bottles at maybe a Skewer's number of hot sauce bottles for your many centillion Googleplex family members. Thank you. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Autumn.
Do you like hot sauce?
You know, I do like hot sauce, but I'm getting pretty bored of my regular Texas Pete or Tabasco. I'm looking for a local sauce without any additives or extracts. A company that uses local peppers so it's as fresh as possible, and a company that really cares about the integrity of the sauce and where their ingredients come from.
Definitely.
And hey, while we're at it, I don't want a sauce with too many ingredients. You know, a lot of other sauces out there, they have all kinds of fillers. So I'd love to find a sauce with, I don't know, let's say no more than 5 ingredients. I mean, it's crazy, but there's gotta be a company out there that hand processes their sauce. You know, bottling and labeling every bottle themselves. I'm probably asking a lot.
Well, you really are, but there is a hot sauce out there who only uses 5 ingredients.
What?
0 fillers, additives, or extracts, and who bottles, labels, and packages everything themselves. It's called Hoff Sauce.
What?
They're a small batch hot sauce company out of Chattanooga, Tennessee that's won Best Louisiana-style sauce in the country. How many times? Not once, not twice, 3 times.
3 times!
How does that sound, Greg?
I think that sounds amazing.
You know how you can get your own bottle of hot sauce?
No, tell me please now.
Hoffandpepper.com. And not only am I giving you the gift of the best hot sauce that you'll ever taste, I'm going to give you 15% off if you use the code ONETOPIC15.
Hold on, that's...
Yes, get a pen and paper.
One topic 15.
Good. That's ONETOPIC 15, all squished together at checkout. You'll get 15% off your order and your life will be better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.